Hi, it's Lynn Saxberg at the Ottawa Citizen. Today I'm talking to Chris McCool, who's bringing his group Sultans of String to Centrepoint Theatre this weekend for a big CD release gig. They've got a new disc out, it's called Luna, and it's a really classy, dynamic mix of cultures and styles. Chris, tell me about the name Sultans of String, first of all. How did you come across the name?
Well, Sultans kind of translates into kings. And so it's kind of like calling ourselves the Kings of String. And when you see these boys play on their instruments, you'll know why I thought of that. Also, of course, I'm from the Dire Straits Sultans of Swing generation, which was a great song. And so it's a little take on that.
Yeah. There's also, you've been known as a children's entertainer for quite a number of years. You've got 3 CDs of kids' material. You're known for environmental songs that kids love. I'm curious how you came to discover this really sophisticated and kind of swinging style of, and how do you describe it?
Well, we call it world jazz flamenco, which is a way of trying to encapsulate all music throughout the world. It's got a lot of that rumba flamenco beat a la Gypsy Kings, with a lot of jazz style improvisation on top of it, and we bring in textures from different world cultures, so that's where the world comes from. And we play some of that gypsy, so-called gypsy jazz or gypsy swing of France 1920s and 30s, kind of the Django Reinhardt, Stéphane Grappelli era as well. And I guess I got into playing this style of music because I met, actually on a jazz gig, I met Kevin La Liberty on the record, and he was coming to the show. And he was just warming up one day at this jazz gig we were doing where we were going to play standards, and he started playing that rumba flamenco rhythm. And I was like, what is that? That's an incredible rhythm. And he said, man, that's like rumba flamenco. It's the coolest thing around. And so we got this gig at this tiny little club in North York called Uno Mundo.
Oh,
and we only...
That's the one you described. Your job was to provide musical wallpaper.
Yes, the musical wallpaper gig. That's what we call those in the jazz world. That's where they want you to play, because they want to have live music there, which is great. But they want you to play really quietly and not get in the way of the guests talking, you know.
Right,
And we only knew like half a dozen songs together, so we would play like our 6 songs, and then the rest of the 3 hours we would just make stuff up. And that's where a lot of the tunes come from on this first CD.
And your instrument is violin.
Violin.
And you grew up in Ottawa. And why violin? What attracted you to the instrument?
Well, my parents are big into classical music, so they took me to the National Arts Centre orchestra when I was like 7 years old and said, what instrument would you like to play? You know, just assuming I'd pick one. And I think maybe I pointed at the double bass, and they said, no, too big. So then I pointed at the cello, and I think they said, still too big. So they gave me the violin. And so, you know, typical violin kid, I was learning Japanese Suzuki technique on a Chinese instrument, using Italian terms and German violin fingering, so I was a pretty screwed up kid. By the time I got to be in high school, I was like trying to figure out how to use the violin to play folk and rock and
Dire Straits,
all kinds of anything but classical music.
Yeah. The concert at Centrepoint Theatre next weekend is you're going to have more people than usual on stage.
We're having it's like the Sultans of String Orchestra.
Okay, usually you're 3 people. It's a trio.
You know, we're kind of modular like IKEA, and we fit into small places as a duo, but most of the time we're as a trio. And now increasingly as we play the concert halls, we bump it up to a 6-piece, which is amazing. I love the sound. I just totally get off on the music. So we've got Drew Burston on bass, Kevin LaLiberty on guitar, Jeff Wilson on percussion, and then we have Ernie Toller from Mazamaze fame playing bansuri, flute, and saxophone, and a bit of piano. And we've got Amanda Martinez singing a few songs with us, Latin song Stress.
Good. Great. Well, it's going to be a good gig. Thanks very much.
Thank you. That's what I